All right, what we did is we validated the reading proficiency scale that is used by ACTFL, and there are related scales used by the federal government. And this scale has been in use for a long time in the federal government, but it had never been statistically validated. So we set out to do that using a criterion referenced approach, and it worked.
So Ray, could you tell me, why did the scale need to be validated?
If the scale is valid, is it possible to assert that the test developed based on that scale would have validity and in real-world uses? The scale was created first by the U.S. government based on observed ability levels, so it had a face validity in the real world, but that face validity had never been statistically validated.
All right. Well, what we did, we had the proficiency scales, and we had trained item writers, in different languages, in Chinese, Spanish, and English (ESL). They had each written tests in those different languages, with the proficiency scales as the descriptors. And what we did is we looked to see if they were trained to write items based on the scale. When we tested it with students, did they actually fall into the ways that we had predicted?
From your perspective, what was the most important part or most interesting part of the research?
Well, I think for me, because I come from an English as a second language background, so working with foreign languages, it was really interesting to see the challenges that Chinese had when they have simplified characters and traditional characters, things that I'd never really thought about with reading when you're not using Romanized characters. I think that's something really unique to the foreign language education field that we don't often think about in ESL education.
Yes, and it was interesting that we got the same results whether we used simplified or traditional characters in Chinese.
Yeah. So what do you think the most significant challenge was in the research?
I think it was setting up the training materials for the item writers, because that forced me to more carefully define the construct that we were going to be measuring so that I could then teach others how to achieve this alignment that was so necessary, the alignment between author purpose, text type that the author used for that purpose, and the reader task that would then be assigned to demonstrate his or her ability to comprehend the text.
So Ray, what do you feel the most significant outcomes were from this research study?
The central key point that we found was that there is a demonstrable hierarchy of language reading proficiency, or, if you will, of ability to read another language. A key here is that we were really measuring whether people had the language skills necessary to be able to read to learn new information, not just read things that they already knew.